right, thank you. How many in here are employee caregivers? You're working part-time, full-time, and caregiving. Okay, I'm over half, way over half. All right, so Mary, are you ready? I got a question for you. Here's the scenario. My boss is not understanding at all about my caregiving situation. He asks me regularly, when will you be done with taking care of your mother? I can't begin to tell you how many times we have heard this question in our Powerful Tools for Caregiver course. Breaks my heart. So how do I make my boss understand that I have to help my mom, but I want to keep my job?
You know, unfortunately, that is an event that occurs. Sometimes the relationship that took place with the employee and the supervisor prior to the caregiving need was already in disarray. So this just adds to one more problem. And again, supervisors, we work with them on understanding that the employee has the rights, if they're under FMLA coverage, to take the time needed. And we try and tell them that you cannot harass them. That would be, in my opinion, a bit of harassment. You can go to the Department of Labor website to find out information. You know, we hope you come to HR first to say, I'm having this problem. Can you assist me with it? And let us go either through employee relations or me as a benefits administrator, try to help the employer manager understand the importance of respect, dignity, and understanding. It's not only stopping at supervisors, coworkers can be just as questionable. They're covering for you while you're gone. Morale gets to be an issue, and it's a problem nationwide. It's not just in your employment, it's everywhere. It's again, with Stephanie's group, are trying to understand how to get this as a manageable event is challenging. And your boss has a boss asking him why things aren't getting done. They have a responsibility. We are employees, but FMLA is to help us balance that. Again, if a boss is being demanding, questionable, we try and let them know that, you know, you're eligible for this too, and your time could be next to be helping someone. But it's like anything, until you're in the middle of it, you may have a friend that's been a caregiver for years and you didn't even have a clue what they were going through until you started this on your own journey. And so it's kind of like folks going through cancer. You've heard radiation, you've heard chemotherapy, but until you're in the middle of it, you have no definition really of what it means. And I think that's the same for supervisors. And we try and create a manager's toolkit to help them to find ways. And I'm sorry for anyone that's being asked the question of how long your mom's going to need your care. I would answer, I hope forever, but it might be tomorrow, it might be months from now. But I hope that helps answer your question.
That's good, thank you. We are, as Mary said, working with Boise State University to develop an employee training program that is going to be for employees and for leadership that hopefully will address these things, because to me it's about education. The more that we can learn in the workplace about these challenges, the more we can come up with solutions that'll work for the business and for the individual. But it takes time to develop those things. So. But communicate, communicate. I think you're getting that message today too. We have to speak. We have to speak. We have to say what we need. And speaking of communication, Angela, this is an interesting question, which I'm going to throw at you if you don't mind. What resources are available to help someone who is nonverbal or unmotivated to communicate?
Again, I love that I have all these kids in my home that have all these issues. My oldest is always, she's been considered nonverbal, and so I guess that goes to the issue of communication, which may or may not have anything to do with being able to speak. People all have their own way of communicating, and I think that that's key to this. Unmotivated to communicate might not be your your interpretation of communication. And so we see frequently kids with behaviors or acting out and such, and they're trying to communicate. I'll give an example. My own daughter, she actually didn't develop any language. Her language came through music. She was 6 years old and in the hospital, just having had bilateral foot surgeries, and her service coordinator came in with a big Mylar butterfly balloon, and Amber looked at the balloon and immediately began humming the tune to a song that was on one of her computer games that said, watch me flutter by, I'm a little butterfly, I'm not gonna sing. So, but we knew that what we had in front of us was her labeling what she was looking at through song. So at which point we immediately said, okay, how are we going to build on this? And this is communication. And so communication may be through picture exchange cards. It can be through adaptive devices. It can be through song. It can be through eye gaze. It can be through, just yes or no abilities. So there's many, many ways, or sign language. There's so many ways that people can communicate, that finding their motivation is not necessarily our motivation. I know that we pushed for some time to, through speech therapy, to get her to communicate things that she probably didn't really want. These things started with, I want, and then we would give her choices, which she probably didn't want any of those things. So there are lots of different things that you can do to find an individual's motivation to communicate. Now, as far as resources go, there are programs. There's speech therapists, speech and language therapists. Then but that can go beyond to different types of communication. And so one resource that I'll give is for nonverbal individuals might be the Idaho Assistive Technology Project. Oh no, the website.
They actually have a...
Do they have a
They
booth?
do. On the
Great.
right side, as you go out, it's over on the right.
Great.
So they have some brochures there.
And the AT program can actually do assessments, both for individuals on communication assessments as well as through schools. So.
Excellent. Good. Thank you. So if anyone needs any information, we do have it. That's why it's a resource expo. Isn't that just amazing? So speaking of resources, Joni, here is one that we get called a lot at Friends in Action. And where can I find affordable transportation for my elderly mother in Boise? How many would like the answer to that one? There you
Pass. Can I pass on that?
go. No.
Oh, transportation.
It's an issue.
It's a challenge, yeah. And I honestly don't have a very good answer at all. Anything that is state or federally subsidized, the funding is limited and may get more limited in the future. So finding that affordable transportation, I am so sorry, there's not a lot. Some things to try is the Valley Ride program. Again, calling our agency. Some of the ladies in our information and assistance department just dig, and they'll sometimes even ask if they can call you back, because they will dig and dig and dig and find things. Sometimes the things that we find on the internet don't exist anymore, and that's another difficult thing with transportation, as they come and go with the money. The script program through Senior Solutions is another option. It is more difficult for those who aren't able to get out of the home and go down to get the scripts at the time they're supposed to. Friends in Action, do you still have volunteers? The problem also with all of these programs, you need to schedule it ahead of time. If you want to pay privately, the normal price, it'd be immediate and plentiful. But with these programs, you do need to plan ahead and make appointments. They say 24 to 48 hours. I would try more than that because some, I believe, even could have waiting lists. The Area Agency on Aging also does provide transportation through some of its senior centers or agencies. And Canyon County, I think, does a little better with transportation than Ada County. Sorry, I don't have a better answer, but we are also looking for the answer to that.
There's also, I know these are paid services, but there is a brochure that's on the tables. It's called Where To Transportation. So the question was about for those that couldn't afford to pay for transportation, but there are also resources, and maybe you can pool together or such. But there is this brochure on the tables, I think several of the tables, so you can, and once again, they're at the Resource Expo. How cool is that? So that'll take care of it. And you're pointing to, yes?
I just know also that if it's for military or going to the VA hospital, that the VA will provide transportation. You just have to call ahead.
The Department of Veterans, there you go, Disabled American Veterans,
To and from the VA hospital
for free. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. And that's what this is about too, networking, so talking with each other about it. And one last question. and I
Donna,
have-
can I just say one more?
You can.
Other two resources for transportation. The State Independent Living Council has information on transportation with some grant funding that they've had, as well as that is then through the Centers for Independent Living. And in this area, that would be Link, Idaho, which is Living Independence Network Corporation. And so there could be resources through that as well.
Thank you. It's just fabulous. This is how we work. I love it. This is my favorite part when we learn all of these things. Stephanie, we've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to give you a heads up on how long you can answer this question. And all of this, what's going on in our lives, culminates in this question. How can I get relief from the stress of caregiving? I feel overwhelmed so much of the time. Anyone relate with this question? Raise your hand, please. Yeah. How?
Stress reduction in 2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
That means I have to speak fast. You all know what stress is because you all feel it every day, probably for many of you all day. And what is stressful to one person may not be stressful to another. And what's really important, and we talk about this in our Powerful Tools for Caregivers workshops, are there's 4 steps for reducing stress. And the first is to recognize your warning signs. What are the symptoms that you have that tell you stress is there? Is it headaches, upset stomach, sleeplessness? You're anxious, you're grumpy. What are your warning signs? Those ought to be like a flashing red light to you to say, I am stressed, and this is what is happening to me. Then you say, so what's that coming from? What are the triggers of that warning sign? Is it a relationship with a family member? Is it too much paperwork? Is it going to the medical appointments? Is it getting transportation? What are the triggers for you? Identify and think about what those triggers are, because then step 3 is, can you change that or not? Because there are things that trigger our stress that we cannot change. And there are things that trigger our stress that we absolutely can change. And part of working through stress is accepting what you can and cannot change. And the 4th step is then taking action. You can do these first 3 steps, and if you don't do anything about it, stress is never going to go away. If it's something that you can't change, perhaps you can change your perception about it. If it is something you can change, then you practice. You make action plans for how you can change that. You practice self-care, the things that we've been talking about today. You get help, you seek help, you share the care and get support. Use relaxation techniques We're about to have another couple coming up here, and we can practice those. And give yourself some time.
And another thing that I want to remind you too, when we're talking about need and help, is that there are a lot of support groups in this town. There are disease support groups for different kinds of things that are happening. There's disability support groups. There's caregiver support groups. Do call us, and we have a list of some of the support groups. But you've got support here. If you liked how this felt today, then you want to be in a support group, because you don't have to be in this alone. So now I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Donnie. Let's give Donnie a hand, please. She's been wonderful. Don't you just want to take her home with you and have that energy, that positive energy with you all the time? Thank you for being here today. Caregiving presents so many challenges. We've talked about some of them today. Sometimes you need to master new skills. Sometimes you need to develop new ways of relating to a family member. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions. There have been many caregivers who have said, I just want my life back. And therein lies the challenge of this great journey that you are on. And that's to give good care to others, we have to take care of ourselves. We can become handicapped as caregivers if we exclude ourselves from the care equation. We need to give kindness to ourselves and accept the help of others. Remember that the Lone Ranger needed Tonto and Batman needed Robin. We thank all of our sponsors. We thank our speakers who are here today, our panelists, our tremendous keynote speaker. We thank all of these fantastic organizations that have shared their resources and information with us. But most of all, we thank you for your tireless efforts and your incredible spirits, and for being who you are. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope we see you next year. Have a great day.